So walk down the brick streets of my hometown here in eastern Kentucky. Heading down to a car show that's going on today down here along the Ohio riverbank. While I'm going down there, let's reminisce a little bit about the fun that we used to do in this hometown back in the 1970s. I guess I could tell some of these stories now because, well, it's just been so long ago, we can probably get away with reminiscing about the days of chasing the girlfriends, street racing, and other fun stuff we used to do around here. I was really surprised at the number of cool classic cars that showed up down here on McDonald Parkway for the LugNutz Car Club show. Seeing some of these Chevy 2s and Chevelles and Camaros really made me think about the good old days living here in Maysville. So sit back and relax as I give you a couple of stories from what happened around here during the 1970s. One of the highlights of the Friday and Saturday nights that we used to enjoy was we crossed this big river bridge heading to Ohio, just north of Kentucky, across the Ohio River. There's a couple of restaurants that we used to ride around and see our friends quite a bit. So I'd like to show you the restaurants, or at least what's left of them today from the glory days of the 1970s. The first restaurant that we would normally drive through was called Basotti's Restaurant. Italian type food restaurant, and had car hops and outside service. And while most of us didn't have any money, we barely had money to put gas in the cars, we would ride around the restaurants just like they did in American Graffiti. Make a little turn right here, head right down where that wooden fence is. Now we can't get back there today because now it's been repurposed into a all-purpose shop of some type. But the restaurant stood right there. We would go around the loop down there and come up here and head right over to this exit point. Didn't drive too far to get to the next restaurant because the freshest restaurant was located right here. We'd make a turn right in here. Oh, I can still remember this so well for so long ago. The restaurant used to be in there. We would drive this direction, but the canopies that you could park under for outside service was right here where the stripes are. You can still see the stripes. Right in the middle was a concrete curb and had upright buildings there to keep you dry in case it rained. So we'd swing over right here, and we'd make a turn to the right, and occasionally we'd ride down over here to the Aberdeen Park beside the river. We pull up to that stoplight beside that Dairy Yum Yum, and we'd take a left here at that stoplight and travel it all over again. Now who knows how many times an evening that we would make that little loop. And every hour or so, or maybe not even at all on some weekends, we would go out and get a few fellas for a little bit of drag racing. So what I like to do is show you just exactly where the cars would run. You know how boys talk in high school, why my car's faster than yours, your car's faster than mine. So instead of just talking about it, we just get out there and see whose was the fastest car. So I'm pulling up onto the place where we used to race, right next to this brick building over here. Let me pull off to the side here and show you where we all line up. Now you can see from looking down the road there, zoom it up here, it is real straight way down there to that curve. I'll talk about that curve here in a few minutes. But right down near this, about that third pole down, used to sit a barn, and that was about a quarter of a mile. Generally, two cars would line up about right in here somewhere. And somebody would stand right here with their hands up and drop their hands, and 2 cars would take off running down that direction. We can only run about 15 minutes or so because we believe that the locals living down there would be calling the law on us, and by the time they get here, we wouldn't be around. We'd run 3 races, maybe 4, and take off back across the river to Aberdeen, Ohio. I'm going to tell you about a race that happened one evening long ago, about 1977 or 78. There's a fellow over there at the restaurant's name, I'll leave his last name out of it, but he had a 64 or 65 Chevy 2. Had a straight 6 Chevrolet motor in it. I had an AMC Gremlin at the time, as you can see pictured here. Now I lined up on this side of the road, and boom, there went the race. We were taking off together. So we were both running down through here as fast as 6 cylinders will allow us to do. Neck and neck, all the way down through here. We got down to the little barn, which is about right there, and neither one of us could tell who won the race, so we kept on going on down the road, pedals to the metal. We got on down here a little bit farther. I'm running 50 miles an hour right now. We were running twice as fast that evening. Just about the time we got down to this bridge that crosses Lawrence Creek, in the left lane, had his wheels drop off the blacktop right over here on the left side. He instinctively jerked it back to the right and rolled his vehicle to the right into about where that home trailer is right now. By the time I got my vehicle stopped, I ran over there to check on him. I thought for sure he was a dead man because nobody wore seat belts in those days, you know. By the time I got stopped and ran over to check on him, his car was upright after 3 or 4 rolls. He was out of the car with just a scrape on the knee. He was so lucky of an individual. I could not believe how well the good Lord took care of him for both of us doing stupid things back in the day. So several weeks later, when we're back over at the restaurants, I saw a brother there with a different car this time. He had one similar to this, a 1972 Monte Carlo with a big block Chevy engine in it. I said, "You just don't learn, do you?" He said, I reckon not." Let's get back to the car show. Another story I can remember, like to talk about. We turned left here by the Dairy Yum Yum that we talked about earlier. We're headed up State Route 41, away from the Ohio River. That's no big deal in this truck I'm in today, but my dad purchased a 1950 Willys flat fender Jeep one time when I was right out of high school. Just like the ones I had in World War II. This one had a 4-cylinder in it, 3 or 4 speed on the floor, can't remember, and it had a shifter knob on it to put it in 4-wheel drive. and lockout hubs. So we had a good time riding around up and down the creeks and so forth in this rascal. So one afternoon, I picked up a girl that I'd met named Connie. I'm going to leave her last name out of it. And her good friend Thelma. We decided to go out for a little Jeep ride. Now Willie's Jeep has 2 seats in the front and nothing in between. We all 3 wanted to ride up front, so I asked Connie if she wouldn't mind riding on a wooden pop case. Stuck a wooden pop case in between us, so Thelma on the right side had a seatbelt on, and I had the seatbelt on, but poor Connie didn't. But a Willie's Jeep, if you all know how they work, they don't drive very fast anyway. They only go maybe 40 miles an hour, 50 tops, but we only drove it maybe 35 up through here or so. We came up to junction 763. See on the sign. Now this intersection's been reworked since then. It's all kind of nice now, but at that time it kind of just jumped right over this hill. And some way or another we got down into this creek bed right here. Once we were in this creek bed, I was trying to impress the girls by just driving up down through there. We were in foot deep water, 6 inches here, 1.5 feet there, and finally we ran through a little hole of water that run up over the tires of the Jeep. Actually, the girls were picking their feet up off the floor so they wouldn't get wet. And I had my foot in the water on the gas pedal and my left foot on top of the clutch to keep it dry, which didn't matter because I'm about to get it wet anyway. So rule number 1 you learn when you're riding around with 4-cylinder Jeeps in water that deep is you always keep them revved up. Well, I did, and I let it get down to idle speed, and the water went into the exhaust pipe and it quit. Oh gosh. Turn the key over, no start. So here we are in 2.5 feet of water, 3 feet of water. And I thought, what am I going to do now? So I told the girls, I'll be back in a few minutes. So I walked up the creek, up the road here somewhere. I don't even know where I went to. And I happened to see a farmer, either bush hogging or cutting hay or something with a tractor. So I flagged him down. I said, I'm up here in the creek, running around with some girls, having fun with the Jeeps. Is there any way I could pay you to pull me out? He said, no problem. We don't have a problem at all. So I had chains with us. So I kind of stuck my arm up under the bumper and wrapped the chain around it, which was under the water. And of course, when he put his traction reverse and I threw the thing in neutral, he just pulled it right out, no problem at all. And as soon as the exhaust got out from under the water, I threw the key over and it started right up. So, so needless to say, we did a little more Jeep riding, but I didn't get in those deep holes of water anymore. That's pretty deep over there. That was pretty cool. Dogs swimming in the fountains. Now one more story I'd like to talk about, but yet it's going to wait for the next project. Remember, Jesus does love you. We'll catch you on the next adventure.